Want to get an important message across but having trouble finding the right words? Wish your gift could express that special sentiment you feel for your partner, friend, coworker, family member, pet psychic, crossing guard, meth dealer, or boss? Now there's a way that your special message can go directly to your gift recipient without them even realizing it. Introducing Sublimitext, the gift card service that works on the subconscious level to let that special someone know exactly what they mean to you. For a flat fee of just $6.66, the Sublimitext service can be added to any Illumin Select gift order and delivered right to the recipient's door. Also available in audio form. Sublimitext is so seamlessly integrated into the consciousness of the recipient, I bet you didn't even realize that we put one right in this ad. P.S. The message is, I love you. And you'll love Sublimitext or your money back. See Illumin Industries Cyber Catalog for details.
Send it. Fucking send it.
I am many. I am one. I accept this sacred work to be given into my hands, to attend the temple of the first flame, and carry it within me. I will not be blinded by the light, for I am its bearer. I will not fear the darkness, for it is within me. And I will endure what I must, to know, to will, to dare, to remain silent, for myself, for my species, for my planet, and for the great work of magic. Hello and welcome to Lux Occult. This is a podcast where we gleefully taunt the mundane, butcher the Latin language, and also discuss a variety of occult topics. I'm Lux Estrada, and if you're hearing this, then this show, and magic for that matter, is for you, if you want it. There are a lot of different ways to be more free, and this is one of them. So here's a quick programming update. I know I mentioned that I was going to try to get a meditation out for y'all to enjoy this week. The one I wrote was good, but I would like it to be great and possibly produced collaboratively, so it's going to be a little bit longer than I anticipated. But what I have for you today is a very fun conversation I had with an old friend of mine, Scav, a while back. I think I managed to edit out all of the really cringy stuff. So I want to apologize for the poor audio quality on this one. Not great equipment. That's okay, though. This is a little bit of a shoestring operation after all. It is just me, so... I do think Scav has some pretty good advice about respecting one's practice, and there's also some good cautionary tales in there. We also talk about some spooky stuff regarding social media, so happy Halloween, I guess. Before I play the interview, though, I want to tell everybody a little bit more about the Green Mushroom Project. It's the thing I was talking about in the last episode. It's a large-scale collaborative group working, meant to help with some of the issues surrounding how shitty this year has been for people, and kind of keep us focusing on the path to better times. Fun side note, I'm actually going to be releasing this episode as part of the ritual that I'm going to be performing later tonight. Okay, so let me set the table here and explain a little bit more about the project. A long time ago, Venus or Ishtar, or whatever name one wishes to call the goddess of love by, was also a goddess of war. So I discovered this on my own. I'm guessing that a lot of people who work with love-aspected deities have probably discovered this. And now as part of my devotional practice, I study love and war in a variety of contexts. I actually just started exploring the sacred art of making weapons by taking a knife-making class, which is super fucking fun and cool. But my point is, it's still the same deity that I was working with before. The only thing that's changed is that my understanding of the deity's nature has been made more complete. Love is the terrifying power behind the will to fight. It's at the heart of most human action, though sometimes in a very indirect way. It's misunderstood and infantilized by our culture, turned into something plastic and packaged and cheap, but its true power is awesome in like the literal sense of the word. And hate is no match for it, because hate is just a weaker, more cowardly outlook on the exact same concept. But the Romans had a saying, ubi amor, ibi dolor. Where there is love, there is pain. Love requires much more bravery than hate. But by embracing it, we can approach our lives from a position of invincibility, like Douglas from the What Magic Is This podcast talked about in the last episode. There's been a lot of hateful stuff happening lately, violence done on many levels. It's been a shitstorm of a year, and we're all a bit traumatized from it. This project is a volley and a sort of battle to push back against all that, a means of both increasing morale and providing healing. It's going to be an ongoing effort that will involve a number of different components and stages, and it will gain strength as we work with the sigil while more and more people join our ranks. Right now, there are practitioners from all over the country and many internationally that are part of this effort. Let me just explain a little bit of the basics about the rationale that went into designing this project. So as I mentioned, the Green Mushroom Project is a hypho sigil. So the first aspect that we're going to be focusing on is creating this network, this web of magic, which is like love and healing aspected. This will be accomplished by various practitioners working the sigil, either alone or in groups. This work can be done in a variety of ways. You can use your imagination. But the most important aspect of this part is to focus on the sigil and focus on visualizing the mushrooms like spores, tiny little specks of green magic that can take root where conditions require or be summoned and gathered and used intentionally. So yeah, focus on the sigil, focus on the spores. The spores can be thought of as little seeds of our will, our intentions or visions for the future. These spores will take hold, and where an opportunity arises, they will grow. It's a good metaphor because fungal spores can remain airborne until floating down to propagate, even in putrid conditions, seemingly turning rot into new life. Fungal networks help sustain many forests, working in unseen interactions which take place below the surface of the ground. The web that we create with this project, this hypho sigil, hypho means web, by the way, it'll be a supportive network of magic and community. The vascular, arbuscular mycorrhizae supporting the stand of trees or forest that is the community. Fungi are also saprotrophs, meaning that they can eat gross shit and turn it into something else, and there's plenty of gross shit out there to go around, it seems like. The mushroom is considered to be a sacred teacher. And also of vital importance, do not forget that there is definitely a dick joke in there too. Speaking of dick jokes, I want to mention that we are going to be coordinating this effort on the Faith Blind Council Discord server. So if you haven't checked that out yet, I would recommend taking a gander. It's a really cool community of people, all different paths, all different areas of expertise, people from all different backgrounds. It's a really cool way to interact with other magical folks. Okay, so what might all this actually look like in practice? So you join up by completing some kind of like work with the sigil, sort of working with it in whatever way makes sense to you based on, you know, how this project works. You will have access to draw from the magical reservoir we're creating to work some restorative magic. I've heard several ideas of what this could look like for people. Some people will be doing like meditations with the sigil, focusing on it in their mind's eye, like while they like dance into like excitatory gnosis. I've heard a lot of people talking about using sexual magics to aid in the energies of cohesion and affection. A lot of people are going to be doing art projects involving it. Some people are going to be drawing it on dollar bills and then handing the money to somebody who needs it more. Some people are going to be like drawing the sigil on like the corner of a check for like when they're donating to charity, or other like worthy causes. So there's a lot of different ideas. I've heard a lot of like really fucking cool ideas out there, and there actually is a whole, you know, channel on the Discord, the Faith Blind Council Discord server, where we're sharing our ideas about all this stuff. So check that out. I do want to say that another part of fungi is that they are very adaptive. This project does have built-in countermeasures. So I do want to warn everybody that if you are going to be working with the sigil, I would highly, highly recommend that you only work with it as intended, to work restorative and healing acts. I just want to put that out there. I'm not thinking that people would. I don't know. I just that's a friendly warning. So yes, please only use it as intended. There are built-in countermeasures. So this reservoir, this web of energy is being created by people networking, basically, by using this sigil. This is what it was designed to do. So to use the energy to get access to this, the spores, all you have to do is like imagine them. Once you're like hooked in, you have access to it. And by working, acts of healing or restorative magic, you're not going to be depleting the pool or network of magic. You're actually going to be growing it. Side note, I don't think magic is a zero-sum game anyway, but yes. So, and also the nice thing about these spores is that you can use them on yourself. You're part of the network connected with etheric hyphae below the surface of perception. You're one of the many people who are trying to complete the same thing, putting their sacred magical energies into it. So you're not alone, because we're all connected, all working together in solidarity to push back, to regain ground. In the green magic section of Liber Chaos, Peter Carroll talks about it best to start with affirmations of self-love and concentrating on like all that's awesome and beautiful about the self, and then sort of like extending that outwards is like a way to like get into the right mindset or to touch the green power, however you want to fucking say it. In my own extensive experience with this shit, I feel like that is definitely a good way to go. Sometimes though, like if you're in like a really fucking bad way, it can be pretty hard to fucking get yourself there. So this hypho sigil is also kind of meant to help with that aspect. I would also suggest completing the following assignment. Think of something that you've done for somebody that you really love in the past. Like it can be anything, like something small, just something to show them how much they mean to you, like that concept. Now take that concept and do something like that for yourself this week with intention to show yourself how fucking important you are. Because you are important and you deserve to be treated that way. Okay, so before I play the interview, I want to tell you guys a scary story that happened to me this morning. I woke up and I was kind of in that like, hypnopompic state where it's like in between waking and dreaming, and there was this dark figure like looming over me, standing by the side of my bed, and the room was icy cold. And like, I was so, I feel like just ice in my veins. But then I realized that it was actually the representative from my sponsor company, Illumin Industries, coming to inform me that I have not been upholding the pact that I signed with them in playing the commercials I was supposed to be playing in all these episodes. So there are going to be a few more commercial interruptions than I would like in this one, but it is really important that I uphold the terms of my contract with the very good and not at all scary Illumin Industries company. So I hope that everybody enjoys Illumin Industries products. And also to Scav, thank you so much for coming on my show. I really appreciate it. I had a super fun time talking to you, and I'm really stoked that you're going to be helping us with this project too. So fuck yeah, dude. All right, and now without further ado, here is my interview with Scav.
All right, Scav, welcome to the show, dude. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and let me talk to you about your practice and all that shit.
Fuck yeah. Super pumped to do this with you.
Hell yeah. Well, okay, just to give a little bit of a background here, Scav and I are old friends. Fuck, how long has it been, dude? I want to say like around 20 years.
Like 20 years, dude. We met when I was 14. So, I mean, it's been a hot minute.
Oh, God. Yeah. Maybe a little longer than 20 years, actually.
Yeah, it's wild.
But, so we had been like out of touch for a while, and I kind of got the urge to like reach out, and when I did, it was so funny. I was like, what have you been up to lately? And your answer was like absolutely hilarious to me.
Yeah, it was just like, God, drugs, guns, and chaos magic.
I think you said, I think you were like, to be honest, like chaos magic, guns, kink, and my cat. And I was like, hilarious. So yeah, very fun. So when we started talking, you told me a fucking hilarious story that we're going to get to later on that I really enjoyed hearing, and I thought that the listeners would maybe appreciate it too. But you've told me some pretty insightful shit about your practice and stuff, and so I'm super stoked to hear about that. But like, first, do you want to like say some shit about yourself? Like, like any like projects or anything that you're working on?
Not really. I've got some commercial like ventures that I don't really need to plug here. But yeah, not really,
Hell yeah. Okay, so why did you get into chaos magic in the first place? Like, what kind of stuff? And like, what kind of stuff are you like getting up to lately?
Okay, so big ass question. This is going to sound super emo, but this is the way it goes. So long story short, I had a relationship fail spectacularly after about 10 years of being with this person. And I was feeling extremely lost and extremely just unfocused in my life and unsure of a lot of things. And I have surrounded myself, for whatever reason, with the imagery of the occult since as long as I can remember. I have always been obsessed with horror movies, the devil, witchcraft, all that stuff on an aesthetic level my entire life. And I had heard a little bit about chaos magic and, it just kind of brushed it off. I was very much at this point in my life just a very militant atheist, just a very nihilistic, dark, bleak just person. There's no magic. There's nothing. There's only emptiness and darkness. There's no point to any of this. It's all without reason. Nothing. There's no soul. There's no power. It's all just just nihilistic kind of way to navigate through the world. And that was not working for me. And it wasn't until I started thinking about the concept of chaos magic as a way to restructure your own brain that it became really appealing to me. And I have a little bit of a background in graffiti. I wrote, I was a tagger all through my teen years and in my early 20s. So the idea of taking letters and putting them on the page and tweaking them and making them look into these weird shapes that didn't really make sense, but still kind of followed the rules was already second nature to me, because it was something that I've been doing with graffiti for years. And so I started started finding out about chaos magic, sigil magic, things like that, and started thinking about them not as like a kind of woo-woo, put your will into the universe kind of way, but as if I sit and focus on a thing while I am designing these sigils or, that kind of thing, this gives my mind a way to subconsciously focus on the goals that I want to achieve. And so from there, that was kind of my intro into, chaos magic, sigil magic, which is probably 98% of what I do. And starting from kind of restructuring myself mentally to seeing those results, be they from, wizard power shot out into the world versus me restructuring my own brain on a synaptic level or whatever, like I started seeing results and it started becoming something that was more important to me. And since then have just been kind of a cult researcher. I don't practice a lot of the stuff I read about, but it is still very interesting to read about. So yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. So all right, you had told me a little bit about like your views on ceremonial magic. Would you mind going into that a little bit?
Okay. Yeah. So this is not going to be a dig at ceremonial magic, and if any of your fans get butthurt, then tough
Oh no,
shit.
I mean, I have no problem with ceremonial magic at
Yeah.
all. Like, I think people should do whatever the fuck
Yeah.
they're into. Actually, really, like if it works for you, then cool.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I often refer to ceremonial magic, Golden Dawn kind of stuff as like old rich white men magic. Because that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like
But
historically,
but that's not just as a side note. That's not to say that it's not accessible to anybody that wants to do
yeah.
it.
But that is kind of the paradigm around which it was kind of created, was like
Sure.
these patriarchal groups of aristocratic, curious, people who consider themselves to be spiritually woke, So in that, with that train of thought, I think that there's a lot that you can take away from ceremonial magic. That's not necessarily what I try and practice, but I think that there's a lot to be learned there. And I think that some people need that type of structure. And some people need that kind of step by step, book in hand, follow the recipe way of unlocking those parts of your mind, or putting your will into the universe, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And I mean, it definitely has its place, but I'm very much of the kind of, I love the punk rock. I love the punk rock rebellious kind of attitude of chaos magic, of take what you want, take what you need, whip it up in your own recipe, figure out what works for you, take these archetypes and these systems and take the best from them and leave the rest behind. Cut out the chaff, like distilling magic is the thing that I really dig about chaos.
Yeah, like fucking deinstitutionalizing, Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. The institutionalization of magic, yes. And like I feel that personally, that while anyone is able to access these ceremonial magic kind of ways of doing things, as information is just so ready for all of us now, that the fact that it came from such an exclusive kind of beginning has a bit of an emotional resonance with me. And like I said, I like smash the fucking paradigm, like change the universe. Like that's the kind of DKMU view of what chaos magic should be, destroy consensus reality, like
Yeah.
burn it all down and let it rise again. Like that's what I dig about it. So I feel that a lot of ceremonial magic does not have that. So I don't resonate to it quite as much because of that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think you had said something about feeling that like it was a helpful step in like getting you to the place.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so given my train of thought leading into what I would consider to be my practice was very bereft of any kind of spirituality whatsoever, right? So getting into it, and I had a couple different teachers and a couple different people who were very influential, into me finding my own way, and a lot of them, well, both of them actually were, practitioners of ceremonial magic. And so going through those kind of rituals helped me to get over myself in a way that I think was beneficial, because, when you were going from like, there's no point to any of this, to standing in the middle of a room naked, swinging around a dagger, invoking angels, and calling the corners and all this various shit. Like there's a certain level that you have to get over yourself to do that, and that despite me just bagging on ceremonial magic, I think that being able to do that was a very big step for me to kind of get over myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, fuck yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we can say what we want about it. It's effective though, right?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. And like you said, if it works for the practitioner, the proof's in the fucking pudding, man. The end. Like if if it works, that's it. And if someone is practicing that way and they are getting what they need from that, then more power to them. Like, that's it, you know? Like, I would not dissuade anybody from going that route at all. Find what works for you, make it work, and, you know, manifest the things that you want, you know? So.
Fuck yeah, dude. You've shown me some pretty sweet, what I would call maybe like talismanic sigils that you've made. Like, will you talk a little bit about your process?
Yeah, so coming from kind of an illustrative kind of art background, I really like making kind of talismanic sigils where I will. Okay, so the breakdown is I have a couple different rules with them, and I will kick up an idea of something, and the rule is that once I start doing it, I have to complete it in its entirety before I stop. So there's no breaks and there's no coming back to it. And what this allows me to do is focus intently on that thing specifically. So generally, you know, I will do, you know, a sigil. This is a really basic format, you know, a sigil of what my will is, surrounded by concentric rings of text in various systems, whether it's Futhark runes or Theban script or, you know, just whatever. I'm a real big fan of typefaces and fonts and stuff like that. And, you know, it's all very geometric. And, but the rule is it has to be done in one shot. So that way it really forces me to focus as opposed to, oh shit, it's dinner time. I'll come back to it. Oh, I'm going to watch Netflix. Like, no, it's like, if you're going to do it, in my mind, when I do one of these things, it's a one-off, it's a one shot. And, you know, there's different kind of theories on what to do with sigils and how they work. And these are not things that I destroy. These have generally been things that I give to other practitioners or, you know, hang in my house as art. And over time, I totally forget what they mean, and it's perfect. But yeah, like I've made a couple as I would say, tools for other practitioners where I'm like, okay, you know, these are my friends, these are issues that they're going through, and I'm making them something that they can choose to use however they want. And in the process, I get to make a pretty badass piece of art for one of my friends. So yeah.
Yeah, and we don't know how any of this works, so you might help them even if they don't do anything with it. But yeah.
And if, you know, like if it's like, oh yeah, that's just some weird shit Scav gave me and I've never done anything with it, like that's none of my business. You know? Like, so yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that almost sounds to me like part of the process of making it is like what kind of helps to, I don't know, charge it or whatever. That's really
yeah. Cool. And I definitely consider them to be uncharged when I give them to other people because again, that's not any of my business. Like I'm just creating in my mind something that they can use. And when I give that to them, I explain it a little bit. And these people aren't green; these are practitioners, so they know. You know, like we've talked about it.
Okay.
But like again, the ones, okay, there has to be a separation here for clarification. The ones that I use for myself, those are a little bit different than the ones that I'm creating for someone else.
Okay.
Generally, the one-off rule, that is very much, I would say that my level of focus is way more intense for the personal ones than it is for the ones that are gifts because I'm putting more of myself into it because it's more of an introspective process. Whereas something that I'm giving to someone else is more like me focusing on them, you know, for the duration of whatever and focusing on generally, you know, the good things that I want to occur for them. Like, so.
Sure. It sounds to me like when you make them for yourself, it has more of like a ritualistic quality than when you make it for others.
Yeah, 100%.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, dude. Okay, so how do you feel about doing some bibliomancy? Take a bibliomancy break.
Sure. So.
Hell yeah. All right. So, do you have a question to ask the Oracle?
Ooh, Making a simple question is a little more difficult for me than making a hard one.
Well, I mean, you can ask the Oracle whatever you like.
It's true. It's true. Will power structures pass on power Violently or peacefully?
Okay. If you have a coin, please flip it. If not, I will happily do it for you.
I am without a coin right now.
Okay. Here we go. All right, got heads. I'm going to assume if you don't have a coin, you probably don't have a 12-sided die on you either.
Nope.
Okay. Excellent. I will now roll the 12-sided die. All right, 4. The Book of Mormon will be the book we will be consulting.
Oh, nice.
Stand by. I will be right back.
All right.
All right, I have returned. I have before me the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ, it says.
My man.
And let's see here. Oh man, I think we got this from a hotel room, and
Nice.
it looks like somebody that had it before us has written some mean things in it.
Oh no.
Oh man, okay. Oh, Eris. Oh, Eris. Willpower structures pass on power peacefully or violently. We are at the Book of Moroni 10:11. And to another exceedingly great faith, and to another the gifts of healing by the same Spirit, and again to another that he may work mighty miracles, and again to another that he may prophesy concerning all things, and again to another the beholding of angels and ministering spirits, and again to another all kinds of tongues, and again to another the interpretation of languages and of diverse kinds of tongues. And all these gifts come by the Spirit of Christ, and they come unto every man severally, according as he will.
I feel like there's a couple different ways you could take that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of complexity, right? Like
Yeah,
everybody's getting a different portion of everything. So like
there is, but it is also transferring. So we got a we got a passage that is about the transference of things.
Are we seeing a division of power too, and all of these different things being divided and given to different people?
Ooh, good question.
Thank you, Eris.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we are here on the bibliomancy break, do you have any thoughts about divination in general that you like?
I've just used it very cursorily, just with the tarot, and just for outcomes of things that, I had questions about. Divination is not something that I've, dived into.
All right. So I'm so excited to get to this part of the interview.
Here we go.
Because when I talked to you, gosh, it had been years since we had a proper conversation. We started talking again, and you told me a fantastic story. I want to just kind of dive right in here to what I really want to hear about. Can you tell me about how you accidentally started the pandemic, possibly with a combination of chaos magic and, I don't know, cosplay, if that's the right term for it? Was this is a pandemic some kind of hyper sigil gone wrong?
Oh God, it might be, and just that just sounds so cringy that oh.
That is really cringy. I'm kind of sad that I said that.
It's okay. It's okay because you got to take the piss out of everything, and there's a certain level of ridiculousness to the occult that I think needs to be acknowledged. So I will take that.
Please not. I'm not trying to minimize any of the hardship that the pandemic has caused. Obviously, please don't misread that. I know it's been horrible, and that's why I'm trying to serve up some laughter of medicine laughter about it. I don't know.
I mean, great. The truth about grave humor is that it gets you through.
Isn't that kind of the fucking point of having humor? Isn't that why we have it? I don't know.
I mean, it gets you through. So again, no disrespect to anybody that is dealing with the whirlwind of shit that we are all going through right now. But this is kind of a funny story. So.
I'm so sorry. I totally ruined it before you even started.
That's fine. So I go to this festival in Southern California called Wasteland Weekend. And what Wasteland Weekend is it is a 4-day post-apocalyptic themed immersive environment. Cars, bands, it is just an absolutely brilliant and amazing party. And it is all post-apocalyptic themed. And the themed aspect of this is heavily enforced. And it allows you to go basically walk around in what feels like a movie set, because there aren't people walking around in cut-off cargo shorts. Everybody's in costume. All the scenery is just dialed. So, this is something that I've been doing for about 5 years now. And I'm a part of a artist collective of like-minded individuals, and we go out there and we build a nightclub and have acts and dance nights and a bar that we give out just an obscene amounts of alcohol. It's a good time.
Fuck yeah, man, that sounds amazing.
It's a real good time. So last year, preface this by saying that it is hot as fuck out there, okay? It's a Mojave Desert, right? So it gets in the hundreds in the daytime. And I'd had all these different various looks in the past where I was walking around with some giant stupid armor on and it was sweaty as fuck. And I was like, okay, I'm about done with that. I want to make something that is flowy. I want to make something that is cool. And I started looking at, people who live in the desert, like people who live in Morocco, for example, the kind of tribal Moroccan wear and Saudi Arabia and all these places that is just hot as fuck, but these people still survive. And all of their outfits are based around robes, around long flowing robes. So that was essentially the genesis of this project, was wanting to create something that would be cool for me to wear. Okay,
so it all started from a very practical standpoint.
Road to hell paved with practicality, So I have this, I get a robe and I'm like, what do I do with it? And I'm like, I want to do something monastic. I want to do something spiritual. I want to create a character that is monastic. And so I started thinking about, the apocalypse, because, right, it's the whole theme. And I came up with the idea of a plague worshiper, a herald of the plague. And the idea would be is that this was someone who worshipped the concept of disease as a deity, and that because of their devotion, they would not be cast down by disease, but would instead act as a vector.
That's intense, dude.
Yeah, so the idea of this person acting as a vector and spreading not only the diseases themselves, but the word of the disease as a religious order. And I have something here that I wrote as kind of a backdrop for this character and the mindset of this character. And, this was definitely something that I wrote at 3 a.m, just randomly.
I really like this process of character creation, though. Thinking about it in such depth and conceptually. Do you ever play role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons?
I never got into D&D, but a lot of my friends are very into D&D. And from a costuming standpoint, if you create a backstory for something, then it gives it authenticity and it gives it flavor. And if you have a reason for this character, then it makes it much easier to conceptualize, because instead of just saying I've got a bunch of random shit hanging off my belt, you could be like, every single little piece of the stuff hanging off my belt all ties into this character and their backstory, and so it makes more sense visually and it gives it a bit more authenticity.
Okay, okay.
So this is the little blurb that I wrote about this character.
Okay.
And this is going to be cheesy as fuck, guys.
I can't wait.
You know what I mean? Don't judge me too hard.
I'm always fucking reading my shitty writing on this show. They're used to it. It's fine.
Sacred Pestilence is one of the 4 maidens of the end. With her sisters 3, she rides and spreads silence throughout the land, bringing blight to ravage all she sees. She is the bubo, the cough, the purge. Her voice is heard in the buzzing of flies and the cries of the sick. Her caress is felt in the flesh of those burning with her passion. Her beauty is found only in fever dreams. She is preceded by heralds who act as vectors to spread her sacred dominion. She is Plague Mother, she is Outbreak, she is Hydra. Open your flesh to her. The plague has come, and I am its disciple.
Fuck yeah. I
Metal
fucking
as
love
fuck!
fucking metal. Hell yeah.
So that was the background for this. So, being that I'm, obsessed with chaos magic and sigils, I started this literally like about a 6-month kind of process of the idea of, worshiping fucking disease as an entity, and started meditating on this concept, and all of my sigils started becoming, like fucking plague sigils. And I had some really rad stuff. One of my favorite things I made was I took human finger bones and made them in a descending chain, so almost like a long rat tail of human finger bones with bells in between each one that I would wear on my belt, and they would hang and they would chime. And kind of the genesis for that was that way back in the Dark Ages, they would give plague victims bells so people could hear them coming, and I really liked that kind of sinister, that sinister kind of really light, high chiming that you would hear preceded by this person that is spreading death wherever they go. And also that tied into the animal world, where animals will often advertise when they are venomous. But even that, it was covered in sigils. All my I was so look. I'm not saying that this 6-month hyper sigil about worshiping disease brought forth, COVID-19, but it is suspicious that it happened, right after I did that. And I take no ownership of this, but it is funny when you look at things like this, and these little synchronicities that are in life, like.
Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's what happened. I doubt it. But I mean, maybe
there.
Well, nobody knows actually. Like, who fucking knows? Like, maybe this was something that was like in the zeitgeist. Maybe you weren't the only one fucking worshiping the idea of disease or whatever. Or like, who fucking knows? I don't know. But super fun.
Yeah, super. It's definitely very spooky and like a fun little thought exercise. And it is very strange to having just like spent 6 months like contemplating the idea of disease as a deity, and then have it shut everything down and kill people in my extended family and isolate everyone and destroy the economy. And like that is something that is not lost on me. I mean, this is like, I joke about it, but regardless of whether or not I had anything to do with that, which I honestly don't believe I did, but it is just very interesting to spend 6 months of your life on this project, and then in some twisted bastard way, it coming to fruition and drastically altering the paradigm around which you exist. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Dude. Okay, so here's a thought though. Like, we don't really super understand how time works. I wonder if it could have been something like that, or I mean, there's this concept of your future magical self, right, or whatever. Like, I mean, who knows? Like, maybe you were tapping into some kind of thing about seeing this reflected in the future, or who fucking knows, right? Like,
true. That is a very interesting way to look at it. Is and that begs the question. Is like, okay, so what is the muse, right? What is artistic inspiration? Where does that come from? I'm very much somebody that, at least in my art, when it hits, when that inspiration hits, it's like a fucking force of nature, and I have to ride it out as long as I can, because I don't know when it's going to come back. But no one knows where it comes from, and like, that brings about a really good question of like, oh yeah, well, could have been a warning, could have been,
yeah,
like, who knows?
sure. I mean, concerning, like, I've actually been thinking about this a lot, like, where inspiration comes from. Like, I sometimes think about it in terms of, like, the concept, like, as above, so below, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, like for anybody listening that doesn't, that, not familiar with it, it's kind of this concept of, like, so, you'll be able to, like, notice the same kinds of, like, patterns in a lightning bolt as you will in a blood vessel, is an example I think I've given before. Anyway, that's just one example. It crops up in the occult all the time. But okay, so what if inspiration, sort of like this, like, this spark in the darkness, right? Like there's nothing and then it's there, and like I wonder if you could kind of consider it analogous to the original process of the creation of the universe, where there was nothing and then there was something. We assume. I don't know. We don't know. Just on like a really small scale. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really awesome way to look at it. Yeah, I really
Yeah,
like
it's
that
definitely
actually.
like not an original idea at all, but like I think it's very probably like you could consider it like Kabbalistic, but it shows up, I'm guessing, in a lot of other traditions too. But like, I mean, like, is that happening all the time? Like, I don't know. It must be.
I mean, I like the idea of all of us having our own miniature big bangs of artistic inspiration and that driving us. I really dig that. Like, that's kind of a very drastically oversimplified way to look at it, but you know, that resonates with me.
Yeah, no, that's. I like the way that you phrased that. Oh, I was gonna ask you. Actually, I remember now. Do the Astral Temple? For people that have not heard this
Oh,
concept before, an Astral Temple is a type of, I would say, imagination magic, where you imagine, like, kind of like, I don't know if you'd say like a happy place. I would say a sacred space. Like you create your own sacred space, your own temple
yeah.
that you can go to in your mind to do whatever you like to do there. There's a lot of different things. So I like to ask people, like, if they have one, and if so, like, if they would mind sharing a little bit about it, because I think it's always fun and interesting to hear the flavor.
So yeah, I absolutely do. And it's a tower. And I shockingly am a huge horror nerd. Okay. Right. So, given that, I'm also a very big fan of Stephen King. And I don't know if you guys have any Stephen King fans, but he wrote a series called The Dark Tower. And it's a really awesome series. And my my mental view of my own kind of temple is largely based off of The Dark Tower. And when I go into my meditation, basically the way it appears to me is I'm, sit down, relax, get in my headspace, clear the air a little bit. Generally, I have an incense match that I'll light and, just get in my headspace, and I picture walking down a road and the road opening to a field of roses and this road leading to a tower. And when I get to my tower, I put my hand on the very large wooden door and it opens for me. And, I go inside and then I meditate within that space. And the tower has 7 levels, you know, based off of chakras. And depending on what kind of goal I'm trying to achieve, I'll go to the various levels of this tower. And so that's kind of the space in my mind that I try and center myself in.
Okay.
I have also had it destroyed, which we can talk about if you want.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so this is going to be a warning for all you people out there that, were like me and
Friendly warnings that nobody follows.
friendly warnings that nobody follows. And I had been very kind of active in that space for a little while, and I was feeling pretty pumped. I was feeling pretty powerful in that space, and I decided that I should take some LSD. And rather than doing it the right way, I decided to take some LSD on just kind of a fun, fuck off party, like have a good time way. And while I was peaking on LSD, I decided that I was going to try and go into that space.
Okay.
And, because I figured that under that umbrella, that I might be able to go a little deeper. I might be able to go a little harder into myself and scribe something out of that I could bring back with me.
But this was like something that you were kind of doing off the cuff. This wasn't like something that you had like intended beforehand.
Exactly. There was no, and here's the warning. This was not a ritual. I was not doing this with the proper level of respect. And I think that is the key here.
Sure.
This was me and my girlfriend decided to take some L, and like halfway through it, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go do some magic shit. Yeah, well, let me tell you how that worked out. So I go into my room, I light my candle, I clear the air, I close my eyes, and just getting to the path, just getting to the road was extremely difficult. I was able to get into no, I wasn't even able to get into the tower. The way I know how to describe it was like being dropped into an electrical grid. And this is going to sound really, really weird, but while I was there was no tower. There was no fortress. My psychic fortress had been obliterated. It had been destroyed. There was no safe space in that moment. And what I perceived was, imagine an electrical grid and being an ant looking up at each one of these electrical towers that are giant monolithic obelisks shooting miles into the sky, and from the top of each one is a ring of radiating sigilistic energy.
Jesus fucking Christ, this sounds really scary.
Dude, it was gnarly as fuck. And it was very much like the Tron grid, where everything was black.
I was thinking about Tron.
Yeah, like it was, these giant black obelisks, a grid, like an actual cross-checker grid on the ground level, and these giant monolithic black obelisks miles into the air, shooting out, radiating sigilistic energies of different colors. And, sometimes they would connect, where one arc would shoot over and connect to another arc, and they would both like flex. And the takeaway that I got from that was that, no, child, you are not fucking ready. It was one of the singularly most humbling experiences that I have had in that space. I believe that the level of disrespect that I brought to that place was mirrored directly back at me. It was hostile. It was extremely unwelcoming, and it was like witnessing some great occurrence or event that you knew that you could take nothing away from. That's how it felt.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. This idea of like approaching the work or whatever you want to call it, your practice, like with the proper level of, I think maybe respect is a good term for it.
Respect is 100%
yeah,
the good word.
Yeah.
And, I think that I've thought about this a lot, right? And I think one way that you could potentially look at that was witnessing the net, like witnessing the net of power, right? Like, let's just say we are each one of those. We are each a monolith, right? Our will is that sigilistic energy. And we create this net, this energetic net that encompasses the world. And maybe witnessing that, I mean, I'm just talking about visually. That's kind of what I could consider it to be.
Interesting.
Or I don't know. But it felt like dropping into energetic warfare.
Okay. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I left that space very shaken. So show it respect, be respectful to yourself and your practice, and don't think that, these substances are just going to make it easier, because I don't think they do.
In my experience, actually, this is really complicated because I definitely have, well, this, but like the listeners might not. Yeah, I definitely have, used psychedelics and stuff in the past, and like I think that for me, I feel like I probably did it enough. I did it quite a bit for a little while I was like a little bit younger.
Yeah.
And I feel like I kind of took away a lot from it, and I was able to like learn a lot from it. And I'm not sure that like it just hasn't called back to me again. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
that if it did, I would, you know. But yeah, that's the way I feel. Like if it really really like calls to you, like I think it's fine, but just approach it with like the appropriate like level, like in terms of like bringing it to your practice. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
please be safe, I guess, everybody, please be safe. But like, I mean, in terms of like your practice, I would say like for sure, you know, treat it with the level of respect. I mean, I would say that like most substances do have a sort of like, I don't know, you could call it a spirit, you could call it an energetic signature, you could call it, I mean, even like a psychic resonance. I mean, however the hell you like to contextualize this shit, you know, but there is like maybe an egregore or something like, yes. So, I mean, show it the respect that it deserves, and be safe, please. So, yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, there's a meme going around right now that is just such a banger that I just love so much, that says snorting cocaine and reading Aleister Crowley does not make you a magician. I'm like, I'll just say that's real.
Like, even though those might be fun things for you to do, and I'm not telling
exactly
people what to do. I mean, I don't know, whatever. Again, be safe, please. But like, Aleister Crowley can really be damaging if you read too much of it.
He really, really can. I'm a firm believer that guy was terrible.
You know, I am absolutely obsessed with his writing, but he was like one of the like, he's like so cartoonishly like, such a cartoonishly like fucked up person, you know.
Yeah,
it's
man,
endlessly
for sure.
fascinating though, and like a lot of the shit that he wrote, it's like, yeah, dude, it actually makes this kind of a scary amount of sense, to be honest.
I want to have a dinner with like him, Tesla, and H.P. Lovecraft. Like, I want to hang out with all those guys. Like,
I don't know.
See what they talk
was
about.
kind of a piece of shit. I don't think he was.
100%. Oh yeah, 100%. And like that would be, I think, one of the entertaining aspects of it. Like, I'm a huge Lovecraft like nerd, and he was an abysmal piece of shit. And I think that recognizing that is part of his legacy, and that if you don't recognize that, then you are doing a disservice to what he was. But yeah,
well,
that's an
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean, I love the mythos. It's fucking fun. It's great. But like, I don't know. Don't get me started. I'll give you a fucking.
Let's argue about Lovecraft on your literary podcast.
About how not woke Lovecraft is. But I'll spare you that. But he was kind of a piece of shit, and definitely like a xenophobic bastard. But anyway.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But he did come up with some interesting stuff, and the things that were based on it are really the things that I enjoy about it. Like the Call of Cthulhu game is super fucking fun, and like all kinds of other shit that came from it too. So I don't know. Yeah, so the thing about these fucking historical figures, they all kind of suck, right? Like in their own way.
I mean, let's be real here. There was just a period where like being a affluent, kind of rich white man probably meant that you were just kind of a piece of shit. Like, and I don't know. It's those people were products of their time in a lot of ways. And
yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I don't know, to some point, like, I don't know, man, like, yeah, Crowley was like, God, he did such fucked up things. Like, to the people in his life, like, he was super abusive, and he was just really a monster. And like, Jesus, how have we gotten here? But no, like you were saying, this idea of like, you know, at some point, like, we need to be able to like read books from history without freaking out about the people that wrote them, or else we'll have to burn all of our fucking history books. And I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea, everybody.
I really don't. And we are very much living in a time where we're just so polarized by everything. Social media agitates this on like a, subliminal level. And again, if there were some real terrible things about the founding fathers of this country, but they also created some really, really, really amazing thing. And it's that art from the artist kind of like, concept.
Mhm.
And if you refuse to look at people as a product of their time and hold them to the standards of, first world 2020 America, then you are doing a disservice to the good things that they've done.
Well, and also you're
Because it was a different world.
yeah, you're also not reasoning very clearly either.
Exactly.
So if you want to figure out how shit is actually working and not have like an emotional response to, I mean, if you want to have an emotional response, that's fine, indulge, but like that's not really like understanding it, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
God, I sound like an asshole, but I feel like I'm right. Yeah, dude. Well, yeah, this idea of like things being intentionally polarizing is absolutely on point. I think it's classic like Machiavellian tactics, right?
Yeah. And just the level to, the levels to which it goes, I think, are the most devious parts about it. The idea of us being a product and our attention being something that is bought and sold, and how
like
you can manipulate, how you can manipulate entire societies, with an algorithm, with a mathematical algorithm that, moves and grows and changes and doesn't have any human masters and is based specifically off the concept of trying to make you addicted to it is absolutely fucking terrifying. And the other thing that is just also so terrifying is how reliant we are on it for our social structure now. I mean, I've very much gone back and forth many times about completely deleting my social media, and the reality of that is that, like, if you do that, you are putting yourself out of the loop. You are making yourself into this kind of weird pariah that, like.
So this is like, I haven't had social media for like a really long time. Like, to be honest, like I'm not a huge fan, and I don't know how to use it very well. But like,
it's probably the best.
But this year, this was before I started using it. This year, every single one of my friends, like in the city where I live, forgot my fucking birthday because I wasn't on Facebook and it didn't tell them. And I was like, Jesus, like that's so bad, right? Like
that's super bad.
Doesn't that show like the way that it's degrading our fucking society, or like social ties and shit? Like, I mean, also, fuck you guys, but no, just kidding.
But seriously, if you're listening, fuck all you guys. Oh shit.
Do you have too much on your mind? Are your neural processes slowed by unused memories, cluttering up your Illumin Industries installed electro-bio-memory implant? With the Illumin Industries Memory Cloud service, you can upload these precious moments for preservation and enjoy them whenever and wherever you wish, without sacrificing operational speed. Something you'd rather never have to think about again? Users can tag and organize memories to allow for selective viewing. Only the best of memories. Memory Cloud, just another way Illumin Industries is making IT work for you. See Cyber Catalog for important information about our privacy policy. Illumin Industries and its affiliates reserve the right to change these policies at any time without notice. Memory Cloud data is backed up daily, not responsible for lost or corrupted files. Must be aluminum select memory to use memory tagging feature. Remember.
Are you tired of other so-called energy drinks leaving you stuck at start while your opponents level up? Try Demon Semen, New from Blastastic. With 5 patented ampers plus a spicy kick of cayenne, Demon Semen will have you blasting to the next level. Don't have time to guzzle the whole bottle? Sometimes I just spray it all over my face for a quick pick-me-up between bosses. Demon Semen by Blastastic. It's conquest in a can. Blastastic, get blasted! Demon Semen and Blastastic are registered trademarks of Illumin Industries. All rights reserved. Available wherever narcotics are sold. See label for possible side effects.
It's interesting, like some of the responses that I get from people when I'm like mention, like, oh, hey, did you know this? Or hey, maybe you should watch this thing or listen to this speaker. How many people there's a certain type of person that automatically gets defensive about it and is like, oh, social media is bad, huh? And it's like, yeah. Like our brains are not designed to work this way, and when the people who design this thing are telling you that they don't allow their children to use it, maybe you should listen. Like,
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, I think that actually makes perfect sense, though, right? Like, I mean, if we consider that it is it's intentionally addictive. Like, I mean, this is well understood. Like, these apps are made intentionally to keep you using them. They're addictive, right? Like, so when somebody's addicted to a substance and you like say something about it, like somebody who's an alcoholic, if you like point out that maybe drinking might not be super great for you, they might get kind of defensive about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
In my experience,
No,
right?
sure.
Like, that tracks, right?
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's, I have a little internet side hustle, and it's very much made me kind of reconsider like how much I want to put in this thing, because the reality is that internet promotion is a thing and reaching an audience is a thing. And, using the question is how can you use it without succumbing to it? And I don't know if there's an answer to that question. I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah.
Like, so it's really scary. And, we're not to date this podcast for any of your listeners who might be listening to it in the future, but, it's September 2020. And, we've got an election coming up that is arguably, at least in my mind, I'm 36, right? And this is the most divided I've ever seen this country ever. And a lot of this has to do with social media, and not just social media, YouTube, Google, all of these algorithms that are training you to be more and more removed from your fellow man or person, whatever. Like, and it's really concerning. And I'm a non-breeder. I don't plan on having children, but to all my friends that are having kids, I'm just like, what is the world going to look like for your children when they're 30? What do you see that you want to occur? Like, what part of this paradigm do you see that you're like, oh yeah, this is an excellent time to like squirt out a kid? Like, I don't know.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's always like life fucking goes on, though, right? I mean, like,
right? Yeah.
It's like, and you could look back at history and like you could say that a lot of times too. Like, there's been, I mean, fuck, it's basically just a fucking bloodbath as far back as you look. I mean, humans are hella violent. That's sort of like our deal. Like, I was joking around with my brother about this last night. He and I make a history podcast together, Ad Hoc History. Check it out, everyone. But we were joking about how if we were going to write the story of like the evolution of humans, we would call it Homo sapien, the history of murder.
I mean, you're not wrong,
So, I mean, I don't know, everybody. Like, yeah, I mean, I do think, like, what you're saying about, like, looking to the future and thinking about that shit, though, like, I think we all should be fucking thinking about that. Like, I think we should be trying to get into the mindset of, like, what do we want to fucking make happen, instead of being like, oh, alas, what will the gods bring upon us? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, being proactive.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely something that we're seeing right now with a lot of these kind of social movements that are happening. And, you can side with them or not. There's so many different facets of this, and I'm not going to get into it. But the reality is on either side of where we are right now, people are wanting change, and that is valid.
Mhm.
You know, it's certainly valid. I don't even know where I was going with that. You just yeet that right out.
No, I mean, that's okay. I think that's fair, though. I mean, I think that, okay, so sometimes I think it's a huge false dichotomy to look at things as left versus right. Like, I think that's, again, Machiavellian tactics, like, to fucking get us in that mindset, because it's obviously way more fucking complicated than that. And it's designed to keep us in these little camps and pointing our fucking fingers at each other, when the people we should be fucking pointing our fingers at are the ones in fucking charge, right? Like, I'm sorry, like, okay, let me just say it this way. Fucking political parties are basically fucking religions with shittier deities and lamer ceremonies. Like, so instead of fucking riding these people's cocks, we should be holding their fucking feet to the fire.
Yeah. I mean, there was an age, you know, where, so I've heard that the government was beholden to its people, and, you know, like, they need that. Look, we just need to break out the fucking guillotines, pop off some shots, you know what I mean? Like, let these, you know what I mean?
No. That is not what I would advocate for doing. I would advocate for a different approach personally, but like, I think the government still is beholden to the people. Like, they just don't like us to remember that.
The fact that senators don't have term limits is unreal to me. That's something, you know.
Well, who keeps voting them in, though? I mean, I'm just saying, like.
Yeah. True.
I don't know, but then other people would say, oh, Alexa, like, if voting fucking changed anything, it would be illegal. That shit was over, like, with Eisenhower. I don't fucking know, everybody. I don't know.
Look, I think bringing it all back around to magic.
Thank you. God, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. You and me can, like, fall down into the, like, conspiracy Molotov cocktail, like, fucking hole forever.
Have you considered hosting a podcast? Because you seem better at it than me. No, just kidding.
Bringing it all around to magic, I think that really where we are, you know, is that all you can do is try to positively affect your sphere of influence. And if that is a small, tiny sphere, then that is your sphere. And if you want to make that sphere bigger, then that's up to you. And you can make it as big as you want, and you can take on as much as you want. But I do believe that putting your will towards the creation of positive things, be they small or large, is a worthwhile endeavor on every single front. And that could be so many different things, you know, and something to remember right now is that could be you having a conversation with somebody that you might not agree with. That could be you going out of your way to help somebody that you might not agree with, or you might not share the same views with. But connecting on a human level is something that's extremely important for all of us right now. And the idea of magic, I don't remember the exact quote, you know, it's putting your will out into the universe. And that can be through ritual, that can be through art, that can be through many different things. But I think it's very important right now that we focus on that positive and try and bring goodness into the world, without drawing lines in the sand and denying each other our humanity, you know? Like,
Fuck yeah.
We don't have to agree for me to respect you as a human, you know? And I think that's something that is very much lost in our social media paradigm.
Yeah, the world isn't split into two camps, you know?
Exactly. Or even 5 camps or 20 camps, you know? Like,
or however, exactly. And so it's true, everybody is a fucking individual, and like, don't forget that. Like, and okay, so here's like a hard kind of useful thing to do, which I think is like right along the lines of what you're talking about, which is so fucking important, really. Like, thank you for bringing it up. Like, so when you're talking to somebody who like disagrees with you about something, I don't know, political shit or whatever, is like getting passions inflamed, maybe the way that I try to do it is like to use like some of the like basic tactics of like diplomacy, like try to find common ground first. Like it's like say like, look,
Yeah.
I get that like you really care about this issue or you really care about this stuff. Like I can tell that you're passionate about it, and then instead of focusing on like whatever you're disagreeing on, like because obviously most people want the same thing. So like instead of like saying, well, I think this and you think that, and focusing on that, like saying, well, what do you think we could do to solve this problem? Right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you are never, the truth of the matter is that, for one, changing anyone's mind on the internet is extremely difficult. It is a system that is designed to remove all nuance and subtlety from a conversation. Getting in an argument in your racist uncle's Facebook feed chat with his equally racist friends is not changing anyone's minds. But that being said, you are never going to change someone's mind without that common ground that you just spoke of, because you have to relate to someone first.
sure, if you want to bring people to where you are, you might need to go to where they are first and show them the way
Yes.
you are, right? Like,
Yes.
and that sometimes fucking sucks because it sometimes means talking to people that you don't gross, like you don't want to talk to them. But if there's a chance that you might be able to like change their mind about shit, like because I do think that a lot of these kind of ideologies that people have that like lead to all this like shitty racist bullshit, like I think that a lot of it, there's a lot of misinformation, and I think that there's a lot of, I would say, like mental illness factors involved. Like I really do think that it's like a mental sickness that some people have, and like maybe they need to be like, I don't know, I don't want to say like rehabilitated. That sounds really creepy.
They need to go to the rehabilitation camps. The Antifa rehabilitation camps.
I'm saying that like look at it in terms of like them having a sickness, I think is a much better way to understand it, in a way where you can have compassion enough to have it not be like hurtful to you, right? Like,
yeah,
because it's like offensive, right? And it's like, how do you deal with that emotionally? Right? Like, I mean, other than trying to like address it through action, there's still that lingering, and then also fucking call out your own shit too. Like everybody's grown up in this like really fucking institutionally racist system, and all of us, it doesn't matter who you are, that has had an effect. So like do the work of like looking at that shit and trying to figure out like the things that you think that you didn't realize, or that you didn't, I mean, or just assumptions that you made or anything, like because there's
unconscious bias,
all kinds of fucked up shit that I am finding like as I do this like ego magic shit, trying to like locate it. And like, so I don't know, it's man, have you read How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi?
I have not yet. I've heard a lot about this book, actually.
So good. So he talks a lot about going through like that process of like finding those things in his own life. Like it's told through like stories about his own life. Really fascinating. Yeah.
I mean, one of my dear friends, Kamar, I've spoken to him a lot about this, about the idea of, I think it's hard. I think it's really hard for people to grab onto that concept. They're like, oh no, I mean, I don't call people racial slurs, and I've, never done A, B, or C, so I can't be racist. And it's like, well, and it's hard for people to legitimately kind of recognize that no, you are a product of this system and you have unconscious bias. It exists, and it exists for everyone. And it doesn't matter who we're talking about. Unconscious bias is real. And to be able to analyze that and to recognize it when it occurs is extremely important, I think, for all of us. To look at somebody and be aware of your thoughts. Here's another one. So, okay, the power is in the word, right? That's like, that's a concept, okay? And with power, with thoughts, with intention, once again, bringing it back to magic, there is power. Your will exists. I feel like anyone listening to this probably agrees with me that there is some type of woo-woo force within us that we can channel to create things in this world. And whether or not that's you subconsciously reprogramming yourself to do it, or lightning bolts flying out of your hand with your wizard hat, woo-woo shit, it exists. It's real. And your thoughts have power. Your words have power. So to be able to be conscious of your thoughts is vitally important. To have your thoughts occur, but to be kind of objective about them and to question, why am I feeling this way? Like, perfect, typical, like example, just, I see someone walking towards me, and I make an assumption based off of the way they're dressed, their race, their sex, whatever, I already have thoughts popping off in my mind. Well, when those thoughts pop off, instead of leaning on those thoughts and letting those thoughts take you, ask yourself, why are you thinking those thoughts? Analyze those things as they occur. And I've found that when you have those type of ideas pop in your head, if you can look at them objectively and analyze, like, hey, why am I feeling this way about that guy or that lady or whatever, then you are able to overcome those things.
Yeah, no, introspection is so fucking important. No, I totally agree, man. Yeah, in order to like have any kind of like mastery over that, yeah, like it's super important. And not just, I guess I would extend this not just socially. I would say, like, why am I like wanting to buy this thing? Why am I wanting to like question all of your motivations, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, bring it back to chaos magic again, is why am I locked into these systems? What about these systems can I change? What about myself can I change?
Yeah, where can I like make room for myself within them?
Yes, exactly. And I think that there's many different levels of practice. There's many different levels of just practice. But I have found, I will say this, that magic for me has been a very introspective journey. And to be honest, have not been at this for very long. I mean, we're talking about maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm a sweet little larval baby in the world of the occult. And, and that's fine. But like using magic as a vehicle for discipline has been extremely helpful. And I think that, like with any practice, whether it's magic, whether it's painting, or anything, if you reflect discipline in that, it can only benefit you. I have yet to come across anything in my life that if I didn't focus on it and work hard at it, it didn't benefit me somehow. And I think introspection comes with that, especially because in magic, it's you're exploring your mind. You are creating new synaptic connections in your brain. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, even the practice of meditation has been shown to like physically alter the structure of the brain.
Huge.
So that's fucking crazy.
Huge. It's absolutely fundamental. And if there's any budding practitioners out there that don't know where to start or don't know what to do, the thing that I would suggest above everything else is to start meditating.
Yeah, I would agree.
Just in your life.
I would say journaling too.
Just in your life.
Meditation and journaling are like, I'm always harping on about it. I agree.
You might not ever get to the point where you're sitting there meditating and you can focus on a perfect golden ball of light that is filling you with power and all this stuff. You might not get there, but
I don't think you need to.
Yeah, I don't think you need to. And I promise you will be able to think about things more objectively and more from a 360-degree view after meditating than before.
Yeah, and it's a practice. It's not like something that you accomplish.
Exactly.
It's just something that you do.
And I think as long as you don't go into that after you've just ingested an extremely high amount of a very potent hallucinogen, you'll probably be good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, use discretion and be safe.
Bringing it back around.
Oh shit. So, have you made any like esoteric discoveries about like anything that you'd like to share? Or anything? I mean, I feel like you've shared quite a bit of like good info and insight and stuff. I know. Do you tell me your secrets now? No, I'm just kidding.
Don't do magic that involves other people. I would say that for me has been an eye opener. I do not focus my will involving others, and I think that is extremely important. And everybody, I mean, there's every single one of these systems of thought, these spiritual methods, like threefold law, just karma, all these basic things telling you like, whatever you put out will come back. Well, that's real, number one, but I've just found that I I had a bunch of stuff happen that I involved with other people, and nothing bad happened, but it did happen.
Okay, like
And that scared me quite a
okay,
bit.
so like you did some kind of like magical operation, and you were surprised and shocked by the results.
And I was surprised and shocked by the result, but it involved other
Okay.
people. And I don't think that that's right.
Was it your intentions
Um,
for them to be involved, or is that just how it manifested?
that's a good question. I think that in most cases, well, let me go back a little bit. In most cases, anytime I've ever involved anyone else magically, things did not go well for that person retrospectively. And these are not like partners or someone like that I was co-practicing with. These are people that were uninvolved to my magical practice. But at the time, it was very much, and by the way, this was not me giving them a seal or a tool. This is different from
Yeah,
that.
I
So
assume
don't,
so. Yeah.
yeah. But anytime I ever did any kind of, intention release or will release, whatever you want to call it, ritual that involved another person, things did not go well for that other person, even though that was not my intention and was oftentimes the opposite of that intention. I, had a partner who suffered from severe depression and started trying to do some what I would consider to be healing magic for them based on sigils. And eventually, this is neither here nor there, but that person ended up having a psychotic break. So whether or not I was involved in that is irrelevant. So I would just some of my advice would be just to not involve other people. I think magic is a very personal journey, and because it's so personal, you can want to involve the people that are closest with you. But I think that is a mistake unless they are present and part of that decision and part of that ritual and part of that. And if this is different than you co-practicing with somebody, I think that's different. But I'm just not a huge fan of that. I just think that it's just
No, for
dangerous.
sure.
And
And I know, dude. I would say, like, from an ethical standpoint, I would agree that
yeah, it's
that
unethical.
I would say that you should never try to like subsume agency from another agent. Like,
Yeah.
and it is probably best, right, if you're going to be doing like healing magic for somebody, that they consent to that and that they understand it, and that then you can talk to them, because I do think that you can do healing magic, and it's something I do every once in a while. And like, but you need to like take the time to really understand what's going on and like think it through and all that shit, right? Like, so I don't know, that's just my opinion. But like,
I mean, and that's all. I mean, this is all extremely like that's not breaking anyone's brains, telling people not to put spells on each other. You know what I
no, of
mean?
course.
Like,
Hopefully, you've heard this before, obviously. But like, yeah, I know for sure. I mean, it's never bad to mention, though.
yeah, and I think that just enjoy the process. I mean, magic is fucking fun. It's fun and it's weird and it's energetic and you can be stoked about it. It does, like, that's another thing. You can be pumped on this. You can be excited about your practice. It does not have to be mundane. It does not have to be dry. It does not have to be, just dry and professorial. It can be
Yeah,
fun.
it can be fucking thrilling.
It can be, absolutely. And especially when you start seeing those results, like you have that, you just look around and you see the world a little differently. And I would, suggest, and oh, like I said, I've not been at this for very long, so any of my advice is aimed at like, people who are coming from where I was, which was dipped your toes in this, thought it was cool, maybe, decided to, I don't know, read, Psychonaut and Libernal, like, just kind of just feeling it out. I don't have any great advice for practitioners who've been in the game much longer than I do because I'm such a noob. But I would just say enjoy it. There's nothing to say that you can't enjoy this. And even though it takes discipline and it takes work, it can be great. It can absolutely be great. And don't be afraid to reach out to other practitioners, because you can learn something from everyone. And that absolutely goes for people, practicing. I mean, that you can absolutely, even, you don't need to have this like formal, like hooded robes, teacher acolyte kind of relationship with people to learn something. I mean, just various approaches to magic can be very different. I have some people that I'm in contact with that are very much less on the chaos side of things, more on shamanism and animal magic and, folk magic, which are very different, and especially, that's the beauty of chaos magic is, again, you can take what you want. You can take what resonates with you.
You can work within a paradigm fully if you want to.
Exactly.
You can do just shamanism or whatever, paradigm you want for a while, as long as you want it.
And I think the key is although I like to talk shit about how punk rock chaos magic is, that doesn't mean that you should not appreciate and respect those traditions from which you are borrowing from.
That is a good point.
That is, I think, a key thing is that, like, you taking what you want from, I think that chaos magic is all about appropriation, and people say that like it's a bad thing, or you can think of appropriation as a bad thing, but that's what it is taking something from something else. And
I think I heard, I want to say it was Gordon White make a distinction that I really agreed with, which was that the difference between appreciation and appropriation was that with appropriation, we just want the results of that culture. Like, it's like you want to have the dream catcher, I think the example was, and not understand the like complex folklore and history about what this object is and what it really means, or like, I think I would say that in some ways chaos magic is more about appreciation, because you're not just taking, I mean, I guess it depends on your approach, but I would say that to get the most out of something, like, you want to appreciate it and understand its history and its complexity and how it fits into the tradition that it's from and all that shit. Otherwise, it's just like, why not use Batman or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, right? Otherwise you're just jerking off over sigils, which I love to make jokes about because it's so ridiculous. But powerful magic, powerful. But no, that's real, and the absolute truth is that you taking the time to appreciate the system that you are borrowing from will only make you better.
Yeah.
If you are really into voodoo and all that, and you go deep in that, that's only going to make you a more educated, more versed practitioner of all things. So yeah, like, respect and show appreciation for what you're borrowing from.
I would say too, I mean, maybe don't try to take like work away from people who that's like their tradition. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know, everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I'll tell you this too, be humble. Mm-hmm. I feel like most people who have been practicing a little while and have gone pretty deep into things have experiences that are deeply humbling. I think that humility is the path of the student and the path of the master. Humility for me personally is absolutely huge. And
quit bragging about how humble you are, Scav.
I'm so humble. I'm the most humble you. No, but for real, you know what I mean? Like it's like look, man, you might have made some things happen, but you're still just a scrub. You're still just a little larval baby in
If
this
you ever
world,
fucking
and
forget it, you're gonna get a little slap on the wrist. I will tell you that from
absolutely
experience.
you're absolutely gonna get slapped in the wrist, you know,
Yes.
and those moments can be huge, and they can be little paradigm shifts that change your course for the better.
To be honest, I think everybody's gonna get a little slap on the wrist at one point or another. I think that's just part of the
Oh
process.
yeah,
That's why they have the
yeah,
Tower
absolutely.
card in the tarot, I think. I don't know.
Favorite card,
That's your card?
favorite card. That's my card.
Oh god, that does not surprise me. I love that.
I think that's about all I got,
Okay.
honestly. Just don't do magic on other people. Focus on yourself. Remember to have fun, and respect the work, especially respecting the work that you're borrowing from other people and other cultures. And that's about where I'd go with it.
Fuck yeah, dude. Well put. I agree. Thank you so much for being on my show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I love talking about this kind of stuff, and I'm super pumped for your podcast, and I listen to it, and it's like really fun to be
Oh, tell
on.
me more. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great. It's the best.
No, I do appreciate it. Fuck yeah, you've definitely brought some good shit today, man, and I am stoked to share it with the listeners.
Thank you so much for listening to the Lux Occult podcast, and thank you to Scav again for being willing to come on my show. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me at luxoccultpod@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram at The Mimetic Disease, where you can check out my weird art, magic, poetry, whatever stuff, and check out the Instagram for the show as well at Lux Occult Pod. Also, check out the website that we are building for the Green Mushroom Project. Thank you so much to Becky for handling that. Fuck yeah, dude. There's also a slideshow that I made to explain the project. I will have links to all this stuff in the show description. You should also listen to the Faith Blind Council podcast and check out their Discord server, because both are fucking awesome. You can find me hanging out there on the Discord. I want to thank Yara for all of his help with this and a whole bunch of other shit. I also want to thank Dave from Unearthing Paranormalcy podcast for all of his help with everything too. Check out his show for all kinds of spooky fun, and also check out the 2 episodes of this show where Dave shares about his path of druidry, which is very cool shit. So if you want to have your mind blown, check out Ankh, the Pseudo Kabbalah. It's fucking dope. And also, since Scav won't do it, I'm gonna plug his cool venture, which is called Wolfgren. But that's all I'm going to tell you about it. You're going to have to look it up by clicking the link in the episode description. I also want to thank all of my fucking amazing friends, all the people who did voice acting, Ray for producing those commercials, most of them. Thank you to everyone who has already helped so much in participating and spreading the word about the Green Mushroom Project. I can't believe how lucky I am to be working with such amazing people. So much has already happened, and we haven't even done the formal initialization ritual yet, technically. So I'm really excited to watch this thing grow and see what we can all accomplish together. Fuck yeah. So there is so much more that I want to talk about. Like, I was gonna say that Scav's plague goddess reminded me of Polyel, the mistress of pestilence, from the Malazan Book of the Fallen series by Steven Erikson, which you should check out if you like really dense, grimdark fantasy literature. It's fucking top notch. I also wanted to say that we do a lot of joking around in this one, so maybe don't take everything we say like super, super literally. I also wanted to like mention about how roleplay and costume can relate to ego magic, and also like this thing that Scav said about the narrative or like the backstory of the costume like being the thing that really stitches it together. Does everything run on stories like that? It's thought that stories are like the basis of how we learn. I guess the fact that time exists implies that the universe itself is a story that we're all telling together. So let's be good collaborators. Let's tell each other better stories than the ones we've been hearing lately. Let's take what we can learn from hardship and use it to create something better than what we see around us right now. Let's resist. Resist by maintaining sovereignty of the self. Resist by maintaining love of the self. Resist by fierce loyalty to love and pleasure. Resist with acts of radical kindness. Focus on the path to better times. Stay curious and take care of yourselves.
Ever wonder what your dog, baby, or sleeping partner is thinking? Now, with the Illumin DreamLink Red neural interface, you can step into the mind of another being, virtually. Simply attach the patented ElectroSync InfraPad to the forehead of your sleeping husband to make sure he's not dreaming of that slutty secretary, or use it to see if your child is planning to murder you. Does your dog actually love you as much as she seems to? Now you can find out! The possibilities are endless with DreamLink Red. Do not use DreamLink Red on fully conscious parties, as this could cause an irreversible blending of consciousnesses in some rare cases. Use at your own risk. See local laws for important information about neural interfaces and consent. DreamLink Red and its affiliate images are property of Illumin Industries. All rights reserved. Illumin, making it work for you.